Hello, everybody. My name is Amaj Ali, clinical audiological scientist and founder of Heurica OS. This is the 13th audiogram that we will be simulating for you today. It's a very interesting case. I don't think we've seen an audiogram like this previously. And for that reason, I'll go a bit deeper into the explanation of what we are looking at in terms of the results. So for those who have not seen this before, this is called an audiogram, and it maps out the hearing test results. Whenever somebody goes into a hearing test booth and they press the buzzer, we are plotting the results. And what we're looking at are two graphs because there's two ears. The red color or the red circles pertain to the thresholds, the absolute quietest that a person can repeatedly hear all the different tones in the right ear. And then these symbols, the blue, represents the results for the left side. The left side is interesting because what those symbols actually mean is that there was no response. And there were no responses when they were masked. What does masked testing mean? Well, if you can imagine that at that bottom of the chart there, the volume is so intense, it's as loud as a plane. So at one point when we do the test, we are aware that the sounds will cross over to the better side where they can hear better, and that sort of muddies the water and gives false results. So in order to get the actual result for the left ear, they have to do something called masked testing, which is where they add sort of a white noise, a rushing sound into the right ear, and they give instructions to say, you're going to hear a rushing sound in your right ear, please ignore that altogether, but only press the button when you hear the beeps. If the rushing gets too loud, please let us know and we can stop the test. So that's how we do mask testing. And when they did that, they got to this point where there were no responses, as you can see by the fact that the dots are not connected and there's an arrow pointing down, which is the symbol for no response. So the way we classify the left side, we call this a profound hearing loss. In the past, they would call it a dead ear. Some consultants still use that term, which is not strictly a correct medical term or an updated term, because we haven't tested past this point. The machine can't go any further than that, and there's no way to rule that out that a person could hear maybe at 130 decibels, 140 decibels. So, but for all intents and purposes, this is a non-aidable ear, meaning for the conventional hearing aids, there's no hearing aid that could assist this loss, and that's what we would classify that as. Regarding the right side, there is hearing, there is aidable hearing, but there is quite a significant drop as well. So in the low frequencies, which is on this side of the chart, the thresholds are coming in at a moderate loss. As we go to the mid frequencies, which is in the middle of the graph, we are looking at a severe hearing loss. And as we go to the very high frequencies, it drops down to profound. So it's quite a significant drop. We know that this is most likely sensorineural because we have bone conduction values. And again, you can see the arrow pointing down, and that would mean that the machine can't go any further than that. And there's no response with the bone conduction values. But we would surmise that this is a sensorineural hearing loss based on the fact there were consistent responses for the air conduction testing. So the gray shaded area above at the top, floating at the top there, looks like a smile, and that's called a speech banana. That's where speech would fall on the graph. In order for somebody to capture conversational speech, ideally this line that you see here should be above it all, and in that way anything below is what you can capture, anything above would be outside of the range. So what I'm suspecting to happen with this particular simulation, it will be quite challenging for you to listen to. Most people that listen to this video will say, when I press the simulate mode, it just sounds like it's off. Which you wouldn't be blamed to think that. But if you do turn up the volume, or you're using earphones and you go somewhere very quiet, you're going to hear a very distant, quiet murmur, a very, very small, like faint voice. And if you can squeeze one or two words, that would be great. But if you'll find it quite challenging, just a word of warning. And that only gives you a taste of what it's like to have this type of hearing impairment. Unless the conditions are completely optimal and the person speaking directly at this person towards their right ear, raising their voice, they're going to be very challenged to understand or hear common speech without any assistance. There is a way to fit hearing aids to this case. It's a very bespoke case. It's just how it's done and how it's set up. But without any further ado, I'm going to go straight into the simulation. So we're going to start with the right side. We're going to turn the volume right up. Here we go. And when I press this button, that's when we're in the simulation mode. If I toggle to the left, that's the left side, that's the right side, and that's off simulation. So here we go.
The roster of Nobel laureates is studded with the names of great and deservedly illustrious persons. during the last quarter of the 19th century. Gibbs had no laboratory. He performed no experiments. His only tools were paper and pencil, a piece of chalk, and a blackboard at which he would.
So I'm in the room next to the speaker, struggling. I really can't work out any words. I can hear the voice. It's very faint. It's very distant. Other than that, even when it's really quiet, it's very difficult to understand any words at all. I'm going to go to the male voice. I suspect the male voice will be easier in terms of audibility, meaning the volume, but the clarity won't be any different. So here we go.
No recurrent event in the intellectual world is so avidly awaited by so many people as the annual announcement of the Nobel Award. No formal honor conferred by man carries such distinction as a Nobel Prize. The awards are presented on the 10th of December, the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death. The Peace Prize is given at a formal.
Which that was interesting. The male voice actually was a bit easier to understand, maybe because I'm so familiar with the audio file that I know what he's saying, because I've heard this audio file a few times, so my brain's patching it up through memory. But for somebody who hears this voice for the first time, in general, on the whole, male voices may be easier with this hearing loss on the right side than female voices. Clarity, again, is very challenging and has to be optimal listening conditions. Ideally, the person speaking should raise their voice and go towards the right side, not shout, but just turn up the volume up a bit, speak slowly, and pace your words in order to get communication. So we're going to do the same for the left. Again, this is only just to show that there will be no sound. Present that very quickly. Okay, so I'll just do a male voice for this particular case. Okay, here we go.
No recurrent event in the intellectual world of the Nobel Awards.
Yeah, so that's basically what is happening on the left side. There's actually no sound at all because there's no responses. Okay, so we'll finish the video here. Normally I play music and so on, but I'll stop it here because it's quite a long video. But I'll use this time instead to talk about hearing aids. So how we would approach this case is something called a bicross. So a bicross is where the left side has a device on it, but it's not a hearing aid. It's a microphone, which wirelessly transmits the sound to the right side, which is a hearing aid and would aid the right side. So the benefit of a bicross is that it gets rid of something called the head shadow effect. That is where when somebody stood to the left side talking and the right side has the hearing aid, there's still that shadow created by the left side of the body. But if the microphone is there, it picks up the voice and transmits it wirelessly to the right ear. So it does give awareness of speech. It gives, it's easier to cope in group conversations. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't give back directionality. Directionality is where, with two eyes, with humans, we're able to have 3D vision. When you have one eye, we're only seeing things in 2D. With ears, one of the purposes of having two ears is that when somebody talks to you from your left side, the voice would essentially reach the left ear, your left ear, quicker than it reaches the right side, and then the brain can work out the direction of where that sound is. When you have asymmetrical deafness or profound hearing loss or asymmetry, as is being shown here, then what would happen is you lose that ability to find out where sounds are coming from. So it would feel as though all the sounds are coming from the right side. And what the bicross hearing aid does, it gives awareness of sounds, it gets rid of the head shadow effect, but it can't replace the directionality part of hearing. So I hope that was interesting. If you have any questions regarding this case, feel free to pop them down in the comment section below. But I thank you for your attention, and we look forward to you to join us in the next video. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye now.